Hello, children. Our reading for this week is based on the Daily News. So, the first item we're going to look at is this anniversary news item. It was only published yesterday. It's only published on the 8th of May. Today I'm reading it on the 9th. And it's all about the anniversary of VE Day. Now, you've seen that on the news last week. So, this news item is all about the anniversary of VE Day. So, we can do what we did last time. So, you can either pause the video and read it for yourself, or you can read it with me. I will scroll it down a little bit in a moment so we can see all of it. Okay, so it says the 75th anniversary of VE Day commemorated. What was the Second World War? The Second World War was a global conflict that lasted from 1939 to 1945. It was the largest war in history and cost the lives of between 40 and 60 million people. I just need to make that tiny bit smaller so we can see all of it. Change that to see if that helps us. Change it a little bit more. One more. There we go, we can see all of it now. Before we read this, I'm going to have a look at the glossary. The glossary says searchlights, a powerful outdoor electric light for spotting aeroplanes in the sky at night. Curator, someone who collects together and looks after items in a museum. Unprecedented, you've probably heard that word a lot recently. Never done or known before. Commemorate, remember and show respect for something. Okay, so let's start with our reading. The Royal Mint has created several commemorative coins to mark VE Day this year. This is because today is the 75th anniversary of the end of the Second World War in Europe. The special £2 coins have the word victory above the heads of a celebrating crowd. Rays from searchlights spill out from behind the crowd. These represent rays of hope on the evening of VE Day, according to the coin's designer, Dominic Evans. These coins can be bought from the Royal Mint. Prices for the coins range from £10 up to £1,055. A donation from each sale will go to support the Imperial War Museum. Stephen Walton, a senior curator at the museum, said that there were many challenges after VE Day in 1945. He went on to say, people believe that out of an unprecedented global catastrophe, a better human society would emerge. At 11 a.m. this morning, there will be 2 minute silence to commemorate VE Day. Hoping you remember that you saw the 2 minute silence on the news. And at 9 p.m. this evening, the Queen will address the nation. I'm hoping you saw the Queen. This is the exact time that her father, George VI, gave a speech on VE Day 75 years ago. What is VE Day? Although the Second World War continued elsewhere, the battles that took place in Europe came to an end on the 7th of May 1945 when Germany surrendered. The following day at 3 p.m, the UK Prime Minister Winston Churchill made an announcement on the radio. He let people know that the war in Europe had ended. Upon hearing the news, people held big parties to celebrate. Even Princess Elizabeth, who later became our Queen, secretly left Buckingham Palace to celebrate with people in the street. However, it was also a day of great sadness as people remembered those who had died. And I think, children, on the television on Friday the 8th, on VE Day, we saw a lot of that. We saw people celebrating, but we also saw people remembering the people who died. It's quite interesting to draw the comparison between everybody listening to the Prime Minister on the 8th of May at 3 p.m. Everybody listening to see what he had to say, and the number of people who listen now for the Downing Street briefings. And looking at the word unprecedented, we often hear politicians at the minute say the word unprecedented. And we know how it feels for us to be in lockdown at the moment, and how difficult some people find that, and how strange we find it. I can imagine if lockdown had lasted for as long as the war lasted, then yes, there would be a huge celebration. once people realise that things were better and would begin to improve. I'm sure we'll all feel the same when things start to feel better for us and things start to improve. Here are some questions. I'll give you the first three questions. Now you might want to play the video back and have a look at the text again. Here are the first three questions. Pause the video and have a go. And here are the last three questions. Again, pause the video and have a go, or have a look back at the video to see if you can find the answers. Okay. I'm not going to give you the answers. If you've had a go at this and you want me to look at it, please send it to me. All right, so here's our next video, our next news clip. This is written on the 30th of April, and it's about these birds. These birds are called cranes, and we're going to find out a little bit about cranes in this video. Again, you can pause it and read it for yourself, or you can read it with me. It says, the highest number of cranes in the UK for 400 years. And then it says, what are cranes? The crane is the tallest bird in the UK, rising to a height of up to 1.6 metres. The RSPB says that they like to feed on seeds, insects, and snails. Cranes pass through the south and east of England during May and April. Here's a photograph of a crane. Let's just scroll that down so we can fit everything we can. Let's read the glossary before we do anything else. RSPB, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds in the UK. Wading, to walk through water. Conservation, the act of protecting species in the wild. Reared, cared for until an animal has become an adult. Okay, let's read. The number of cranes is soaring once again in the UK, according to the RSPB. The Bird Protection Group says that the population is the highest for 400 years. The UK Crane Society has said that in 2019 there were 56 breeding pairs of the long-necked wading birds in the UK. There are around 200 individual cranes in total. So, what's behind the crane comeback? Well, the RSPB says that it's down to the dedication of conservation groups. These groups have worked hard to improve wetland habitats. Cranes have been spotted in Lake and Heath Nature Reserve in Suffolk. They've also been seen in Nene Washers near Peterborough. Some groups have even reared baby cranes to prepare them for life on the Somerset Levels in the southwest of England. Cranes were once a common sight across the UK. In fact, Cranefield, a town in England, gets its name from the term field of cranes. In the Middle Ages, people thought crane was a luxury food. There's even evidence of some kings of England eating it at the time. Habitat destruction and hunting, however, meant the number of cranes began to plummet. All this meant that by the 1600s, these birds had become extinct in Britain. In the 1970s, cranes started to return to the Norfolk Broads. Since then, conservation groups have worked to encourage more cranes to return to the UK. In 2010, the Great Crane Project was set up. It had worked on developing and improving crane habitats. Today, the RSPB says that there is one breeding site, but its location is kept secret. Wildlife groups welcome the news. Andrew Stanbury of the RSPB Conservation Scientist said, we are delighted to see crane numbers continuing to recover. Other conservation groups have also welcomed the news. Chrissy Kelly, a conservationist, said, we are thrilled to see the wild cranes doing so well. Okay, so that's a little text about cranes, a wading bird, a large wading bird. Here are your first few questions. Remember, you can scroll the text back and have a look if you need it. Okay, and here are the last three questions. Again, remember, you can run the video back a little bit and read it again if you need it. Okay, so our final text is about museums asking for items from everyday life. I don't know if you saw this item on the news recently. This is from the 28th of April 2020. It says, Museums ask for items from everyday life. What are museums? Museums are places that collect objects for different purposes. Some show items from the ancient past, some show life as it is today. Museums display objects to entertain or to inform us about a certain topic. Okay, let's see if we can fit the whole of that on. We can. Right, once again, you can either pause the video and read it for yourself, or you can read it with me. I'm going to start with the glossary. Artifact, an object of cultural or historical interest. Exhibitions, public displays of interesting items. Documenting, recording for the future. Virtual tour, photos and videos which simulate visiting a place. Museums across the world are home to some of our greatest treasures, yet soon many will include hair clippers, hand-drawn rainbows, and toilet roll among them. To help people in the future understand what life was like during COVID-19, museums are asking people to send in their own artifacts of daily life. These mementos will be displayed in exhibitions when life returns to normal. The Museum of London is one of the museums asking for people to start documenting what life is like during this time. They think it's important to collect things that tell people what everyday life was like. One of the people in charge of the collection, Beatrice Behelen, hmm, said that nothing was too humble. She also said that the museum wants a range of objects from clothing to hair clippers, from diaries to memes. Another project has been created by the Museum of Ordinary People in Brighton. They say their aim is to document both the magic and the mundanity of life. They are asking for people to start writing a diary. This can be as little as 2 lines a day. The diary entries can include pictures and drawings of any events that happened during the day. The idea, according to Lucy Malone, one of the directors, is to create a snapshot of daily life for ordinary people. It's not just museums in the UK that are asking for help with their collections. One Austrian museum began a similar project on the 25th of March, and more than 1,300 people have responded already. The Louvre in France and the British Museum have all created virtual tours around their collections so people can carry on visiting. If you start writing and collecting, perhaps your own work could end up on the walls of a museum. Okay, so here are the questions. Here are the first 3 questions. Again, you can scroll the video back a little bit if you need to. And here are the last 3 questions. Perhaps you might want to start a little diary and send it to a local museum. I'm sure some of our local places would be really interested. It might be worth 2 or 3 lines every day to document what life has been like whilst we've been in lockdown.